Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome. It's the UploadVR Awards 2021 nominee reveal. I'm Zena and I'm going to be your host. And joining me, as always, is Jamie Feltham.
Jamie's on sabbatical, honey.
We've seen Spider-Man, honey.
That's a line in the film. Not a spoiler, but that is a line in the film.
Anyway, we are not alone. You guys are here. We are live. Hello to Sampler19, who says, Lunako 2 wins at everything. The end. Or is it?
Including best quest game in PSVR game.
Chris Richardson, hello, welcome. Paolo, welcome. Hello to everyone. Thank you for joining us. Just going to do a quick shout out to our members who support us month after month. Shout out to Jerome Houston, Andrew King, Skiva, 6060 Bicycle, Devin Miller, Matthew May, Rick Tet, Robert Coinona, Steve Evans, Smash Reality, Adam Hartzell, John Westra, and Dominique Fruckman. Thank you guys so much. If you guys have got commitment issues, chuck a super chat or a super sticker in the chat. We very much appreciate it, and we will 100% read out and thank you and bow down to you if you send that in.
Also, hello to Butter Something, Ahmad, Predvidite, and Space Denizen. Thank you for saying hello. You made me feel a lot better by saying hello. Hello to you.
So we have got 14 categories. That's a lot, isn't it? Actually, fewer than last year, I must say.
Yeah. We took out fitness. We took out production because...
Production?
Productivity app.
Yes.
Like if we'd had it, we'd have maybe had like Horizons or something. Horizon Workrooms. But it just gets incredibly hard to judge those by the year when we're not using them on a daily basis and everything like that.
And every year isn't so fruitful for every category.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
However, we do have 47 entries, so that includes games, hardware, and experiences. And FYI, this has all been decided by us, the UploadVR team. No one has entered this or anything. We've looked through the past releases from 2021, and this is all according to us. So it's all very unbiased.
Very unbiased.
The winners will be announced this week, Thursday. Same time, same place, right here on YouTube. But anyway, before we get ahead of ourselves, let us start off with Best Competitive Multiplayer. This one is a very interesting lineup. Larcenauts, Hyperdash, Loco Dojo Unleashed, Ragnarok, and Gorilla Tag.
Ooh. What do you think of the lineup, Z?
I remember when we played Loco Dojo and I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I was very confused by a lot of the character models.
I love having a game like that in there because it kind of highlights just how diverse this category can be. Yeah,
Yes,
we've got
that's so
Larcenauts.
true.
Yeah, we've got Hyperdash, and those are two games I'm a fan of. But something like a Mario Party in Loco Dojo is great to have in here. And then just how much fun the competitive multiplayer can be in a rhythm game, I think, is really hit home by Ragnarok.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, right at the end here, this guy couldn't really do a multiplayer category without mentioning Gorilla Tag.
The monkey.
Yeah.
Return to monkey. Will we be returning to monkey? Check it out on Thursday. And of course, our boy Vod here.
Of course.
FYI, on the VR Games Cast last Thursday, you guys were asking me, us, what our favorite characters are. I've got an unofficial list at the end of this podcast because I looked through all of the releases and there were loads of characters that I missed out last week. I mean, VOD was an obvious one that we picked. Anyway.
Onikase was just asking if the normal VR download podcast is going ahead this week. Just so you know, no. Pretty much everyone that does that podcast is off today. So it's not like we're doing this because, in lieu of it, it's just they're literally not here to do it today. So it's a week off for that. But we'll definitely get back to that in the new year, if not before then.
Yes. Ragnarok is an unexpected one for me in this one. I'll just say that. Shall we move on to co-op multiplayer?
Yeah, after you just threw an insult for Ragnarok right in at the end there, let's
I said
move on.
it's unexpected.
Here we go. Casting to screen now.
We have got After the Fall, Demio, Township Tale, Legendary Tales, and Warplanes World War One Fighters.
Such a good category.
Yeah, this is a very, very good category. And you were actually the one who chucked in Legendary Tales there, and the great shout. Fantastic
yeah, well, I mean,
shout.
we had such a great time playing Legendary Tales on stream a couple of months ago, and you know, whenever people play Boneworks and stuff like that, they're like, "Oh, this is great. I wish this was in co-op." Legendary Tales is one of the first games to kind of deliver on the co-op there. But I think this speaks to both the competitive and the co-op side of just how strong those categories are this year.
Yeah.
And again, such great diversity, starting with something that is so like intrinsically built for co-op, like After the Fall, and of course Demio as well, which is just a huge co-op experience, all the way down to something like Warplanes World War One Fighters, which is like, it's such a versatile experience that you can play any way you want. And if you want to have a really cool co-op experience where either there's 2 planes or maybe 3 planes and 2 people are in 1 plane, it supports all of that kind of stuff. It's just one of those cool things that really highlights how you can have a co-op game in VR, but everyone has kind of interesting different roles, and that's something that's really interesting to play with, I think.
Speaking of different roles, A Township Tale. We've
Mm,
spent many an hour, and it seems like we get nowhere because there is just so much to do.
yeah,
And the fact that it is on so many platforms,
yeah.
you know, Quest for One is ridiculous.
Yeah, it really, I mean, in that sense, I hate to say it, but it really feels like the Minecraft of VR, right? In that it lives and dies by
Yeah.
the fact you can do all of this stuff with your friends. You can cut down on resource management time and everything like that by just taking your friends off to the cave with you or something like that. And then, of course, I think this is a really interesting category because obviously After the Fall isn't that old. We reviewed it a couple of weeks ago, and my review came in slightly more mixed than a lot of other people. But I think as a team, we all just totally recognize the co-op strengths of that game, and I think it's really in with a shot of winning this one, I think.
It's ridiculously seamless,
Yeah.
for sure. I think that's the thing that, yeah, like you said, definitely struck us when we first jumped in. And of
Yeah.
course, Demio, everyone's given Demio a big shout out. Shout out to Demio. Yes, Demio is like D&D. It is fantastic, and perhaps it shall be featuring later on in the other
I was
categories.
going to say, it's a good thing it's getting a lot of love now because you're going to be seeing a lot of Demio in the next half an hour or so.
Coming away from games, we're going to move on to best experience. So this could either be an art piece, a film, an experience.
Yeah,
is
basically.
in
Well,
the name.
that's why we go with this name, because we could dissect it all and say, oh, best movie, because these ones are just passive and you watch them, like Battlescar. But then some of them like are kind of more closer towards games because they have interactive elements. And so for us, experience is just a good way to put the whole lasso around the whole category.
Oh,
Here we
Asuid.
go.
So the nominees for best experience are Battlescar, Madrid Noir. Oh, I said that a bit weird. Madrid Noir. Goliath, Sentenced, and Welcome to Respite. If you have tuned into the VR Games cast in the past, there is one title in here that we keep mentioning, and that's Battlescar. It came out right at the beginning of the year. It made its rounds in various film festivals. Yeah, it's one that we have been recommending for a while.
Yeah.
The developers of that published Madrid Noir, another fantastic movie.
Yeah, Madrid Noir was a really, really cool. Like I think it's like a half an hour kind of experience, and that's one of the ones I mean of. You end up watching a lot of it, but there are really powerful moments of interactivity in there too. Same for Goliath, which had the immortal Tilda Swinton or Tilda Swinton? Swinton.
I'll be right back.
Narrating, and that was a very cool, powerful voice to deliver to the metaverse. Oh, what am I talking about?
My headset power is low as well.
Oh, okay, right. See, this is charging the headset. That's why I'm getting confused. Anyway, Sentenced is a really interesting one on this list as well, because that's kind of more like a game. It's like about an hour-long playthrough kind of thing, and there's no movie element of it. You're in control of the character the entire time, but you're essentially an executioner in a kind of medieval kind of setting, and you get taken through like gradually more and more morally dubious jobs, essentially. And the game is all about potentially finding a breaking point for you where you don't want to do it anymore. So there's not really a fail state in Sentence. There's just kind of the bit you either get all the way through the story or you just kind of nope out at some point and say, no, I don't want to do this. And it's one of those really, really interesting mixes of gaming in a way that isn't traditional. It's not a walking simulator or something like that where there's like, nothing mechanically going on there. There's plenty in that sense, but it's a kind of game where anyone can pick it up and have an interesting narrative experience. So that's why it found its way here. And Welcome to Respite is something that Ian is a really, really big fan of. And I've seen trailers of. I haven't personally seen myself, but I know some of the team voting have. And that's really, really cool for what you can do for live VR theater and everything like that, which is such an interesting category. And hopefully one year we'll get to have, we'll have seen enough of those kinds of experiences happening often enough that we'll get our own category on something like that as well. But for now, I think it's really great to group all of these in like this.
Absolutely. Before we move on to best updated game, I'd just like to remind you guys that this is just an announcement of the nominees, and we shall be going live with a pre-recorded version of the awards on Thursday, right here, same time, same place. We'll be going through them all. It will all be decided by the UploadVR team.
Everything will be revealed.
Absolutely everything. Okay, next up is best updated game. So this could be older games that have been, they are older games that have been continuously updated. This year, have they been updated with the most fruitful?
Do they bear fruit? It's an interesting category because it's always video games in general are changing to be these massive live ongoing services, and we actually debated how we describe this category this year, and we settled on something like best updated game because there wasn't too much in the way of like actual proper being updated every month with free new content outside of like Population 1, which we didn't I didn't think we should be putting up here personally this year. But take us through the categories.
All right. The nominees for best updated game are Space Pirate Trainer DX, Pistol Whip, Golf Plus, Waltz of the Wizard, Blast On, and Cubism.
I got to say, on the board here for a second, I looked at the Pistol Whip and I was like, no, that's Paper Beast. But but no, it's Pistol Whip. That's good.
The way that it's cropped, it's just a gun pointing at a horse. And I was like, that's not entirely representative of Pistol Whip. But it is the, what's the update called? Thunder.
Smoke and Thunder.
Smoke and Thunder. The cowboy update.
But in general, we're talking about like the year of updates Pistol Whip has had, right? So this is, again, another interesting category that kind of flip-flops a bit. Like something like Space Pirate Trainer DX, we're really just talking about the one massive update that had earlier in the year that added the really, really cool arena scale multiplayer stuff. But then something like Pistol Whip has just had a great year of being consistently updated. Same for Blast On, same for Cubism, same for Waltz and the Wizard. And again, then Golf Plus used to be called Pro Putt by Topgolf, I think it was called. And very, very recently got entirely transformed, essentially, to become this all-new experience with like massive, massive new courses that really met the demands of what a lot of the players wanted out of the game. So it's a very big, diverse, and important genre. And I think, like we're seeing a lot of other suggestions in the chat right now. I see like people saying Pavlov and No Man's Sky and Swordsman. Those are all great picks too. This is just for us what we felt where developers had spent their time best with games they'd already released over the course of the year.
And of course, we need to limit it somewhat, don't we? We can't have like 20 nominees. There are so many incredible games that have, been continuously updated. Here are some of the ones that have just stood out to the UploadVR team for sure.
And No Man's Sky, I'm sure, will be nominated many other places for best ongoing game and stuff like that. But yeah.
Following on from that, we're going to go on to best DLC. So core game aside.
Sorry, just trying to find it. Here it is.
We've got 4 nominees for this one. So it's the music packs for Beat Saber, Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge Last Call, Jurassic World Aftermath Part 2, and Walkabout Mini Golf, its new courses.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you were saying, this is more to do with premium updates. So less of the ongoing live service, you can keep playing this as long as you just bought the game once thing, and more of when developers come and say, this piece of content is worth someone that's already bought the game playing more. And it's been a really interesting year for that, especially for the middle two, because those games released kind of like part 1 games at the end of last year. And then and I think we all found them pretty lackluster as those first halves. But then DLC came in to make them more complete. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Walkabout is an interesting one because the game is pretty much already perfect. And you just want more of that content at the end of the day. So I'm really glad. I think that's a very, very good nomination to have there. And of course, then there's the juggernaut that is Beat Saber.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at it. I couldn't just put one screenshot there. It's just been so impressive, hasn't it? With Lady Gaga being the latest music pack.
Yeah. Chris Richardson's asking why Demio isn't on updated or DLC. That's because Demio came out this year. So I think, and again, like we said, you're going to see Demio a lot more in a bit. So I think for us, it was a bit weird to say it's the best game, but also it did the best job of doing several updates afterwards. That didn't really seem fair to throw it in with everything else that was released in years before and developers were still going back to it. Because there's less expectation there, right, for developers to return to older products.
Absolutely. The next category is a very interesting and very subjective one. Most immersive moment. So that, of course, depends on who's played and what kind of experience did they have. But we think this covers it pretty nicely. So starting off with traffic jams. Oh, I have not updated this. Oops.
Oh, okay. That's fine. But traffic jams, when you get into a car crash in traffic jams.
The first car crash, to me, that was like watching a car crash.
Well, exactly. That's why you mentioned that was your personal suggestion. And that just made so much sense to me because it is a great. I said in my review of that game, like otherwise, Traffic Jams isn't like a completely spectacular game, but that moment where you realize you're going to watch like a head-on collision in first person, I get like a little sick in my stomach watching it because I think, oh my god, those two cars are about to crash, and then I remember I'm in VR. So I thought that was a really, really good one to flag.
The other nominees are Unplugged, where you first start soloing. A Township Tale, where you are chopping trees and crafting backpacks. Floor Plan 2, we're going to have a little pantomime from Jamie for each of them. Floor Plan 2, Joining Puzzle, I Expect You to Die To, Behind the Stage, and Arashi Castles of Sin, Petting Haru, that fantastic wolfy dog that we fell in love with on PSVR.
Sampler points out no Lone Echo 2, and this is one where I was heavily considering putting Lone Echo 2 in there, but I couldn't like recall a specific moment of the game that I would personally want to point out, and B, if I had done any of those, I feel like I would have just been repeating what came from Lone Echo 1 anyway. But Lone Echo 2 will be mentioned later, Sampler, so don't worry. And Butter Something, no, these are not required to be on all platforms. This can just be any game appearing on any platform. So if it's a Quest 2 exclusive or it's all multi-platform, that for a category like this, that doesn't matter.
Or for example, Arashi Castles of Sin is PSVR only.
Yeah.
So yes, your one. This category was changing up until 15 minutes before
Well,
we
it's
started.
essentially like looking through your Google Photos of the year,
Yeah.
but trying to remember that as you look down the games you reviewed and played for the year,
Mm,
and just having like those memories flashing back to you.
mm-hmm.
And we were going to say something like, winning a game of Demio is such an incredible moment between four players, but I wanted to
Yeah.
try and find something a bit more specific. And then I remembered looking into this lovely girl's eyes here and petting her on the head as she barked, and
The dog,
we played cat.
everyone, not
Yeah,
me.
okay, yes, the dog. Thank you. As we played catch and everything, and that was such an incredible moment in that game. Same for
Yes.
like you could almost take any level from I Expect You to Die too, but I personally like the behind the stage level the most, and I think
Floor plan too. Yeah, it's so quirky, isn't it? It's so personal
yeah, exactly.
and
I think
awkward.
the opening 10 this is the opening 10 minutes of Floor Plan 2 I'm specifically talking about, where you do like this sequence of puzzles where you're kind of going for a job interview, and they kind of bring different like puppet style characters towards you to say, "Oh, solve my issue." And you're like grabbing sticks of butter and lifting up hats to take things out of people's heads and stuff like that. And it's just a really like you said, personal, weird, fantastic bit of VR puzzling. And if you haven't played Floor Plan 2, which I would imagine a lot of people haven't, it's worth it for those 10 minutes alone, in my opinion. I love it.
A hard to get. That is a fantastic immersive moment. Waking up with a gorgeous mountain view
Mm,
in the Hitman 3 Hokkaido map was a breathtaking moment in VR.
yeah, that's a great shout. Lots of great moments in Hitman 3. Can't wait to get back to that next year on
Yes.
PC.
It's very, again, this topic, this category is very, very subjective. It completely depends on, how we've taken on
Yeah,
each of these
exactly.
titles
Yeah,
and what's really stuck.
yeah.
Um Moving on. Again, a little bit of a subjective one. Most innovative VR design. So this comes down to how does it implement VR? Is it, made for it? Does it just work seamlessly and perhaps not on flat screen games?
Mm.
So the nominees are Carve Snowboarding, Unplugged, Puzzling Places, Hand Physics Lab, Gorilla Tag, and Eye of the Temple.
Mm.
Eye of the Temple you are very, very fond of, aren't you?
Yeah, Eye of the Temple is really, really interesting because there are so few games that really genuinely ever harness the power of room scale VR, which does essentially mean that, even beyond the limits of having to own a VR headset and a PC, even fewer people can play it because you're going to need space in a room. But there's just so much more power to actually physically walking through an experience, and it gives you so much more of a sense of actually being there. And I so wish we could get every VR game to kind of figure that out some way, because smooth locomotion is for some people the best of what you get right now, but it's still not anywhere near as immersive as it needs to be.
Mm.
And so it's kind of almost a throwback to like the 2016 era of the first kind of games coming out to really harness room scale, but it's also kind of like it builds on all of that to give you an actual full campaign of something, which I really, really love. I
Mm.
think this is a great category in general. Like, it's certainly the most fun one to talk about, right? Because
Yes.
every game is so different. And I know there's one game that you're really, really rooting for in this category,
Which one could that be?
if you remember.
Unplugged.
Yes, I'm like, you're really rooting for
Well,
Unplugged.
I was thinking more and more about it. Unplugged, Puzzling Places, and Hand Physics Labs. It's literally just because of the hand tracking, isn't it?
Mm.
But they implement it in such different ways. But the thing with Puzzling Places that makes it stand out from the other hand tracking stuff is how they have made the puzzles.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like a crappy 360 degree video where it's like, we've brought this real thing into VR, but it's like, no, you haven't. This is actually really very cool.
Yeah.
Amazing how they've brought it into VR.
I think, and this kind of ties into another game as well, but I think the great thing about Puzzling Places is, my dad loves puzzles, and I could easily put this on his head and he would just instantly understand why that's such a great idea. And I think he would see it as a great alternative to sometimes doing his normal puzzles. And I think, moving over to Gorilla Tag, that's kind of the same thing of, like I was saying to you just earlier, they literally figured out how to put a real world activity tag
Mm,
in VR using those physical movements. No one has to run. You can stay in the same spot, but by just using your own two hands to propel yourself through the environment. Such a clever way to figure out,
becoming
like a
monkey.
schoolyard kind of game in VR for the first time.
Mm,
And then Carve, I just think there's something to be said for VR Skater as well, which is a great game on PC, and they're kind of similar in that what they both do is they take your motion controllers and kind of treat them as your feet. So everything you would do with your feet to do a trick in snowboarding or in skateboarding, you just do that with your hands instead.
mm.
I just think the implementation in Carve is a bit simpler and more accessible, and thus, a bit easier to get on board with. But, if you like Carve, I think you should check out VR Skater as well.
And there's a dog in it.
That's very true. Not too innovative, but it is there.
There have been 2 great dogs this year.
Yep.
How about it?
Yeah.
Let's hope for 3 next time. Next up is Hidden Gems. So this may be titles that you haven't necessarily heard of before. It kind of went under your radar. Probably went under, many people's radars.
Mm.
But these are the gems that you should look to if you're looking for something a little bit different. So the nominees are Carve Snowboarding, Mare, Vanishing Grace, Eternal Starlight, Arcsmith, Crashland, and Eye of the Temple again.
Yeah. Again, a really cool. This is a category we
fantastic
only
lineup.
thought up in the last couple of days, and it's just we play so many games, VR games at UploadVR, and we play so many great indies essentially that we really, really love for one reason or another. It's just they don't have, the scale or scope or budget or whatever to really contend with some of the bigger stuff out
Mhm.
there. And so we keep thinking to ourselves, oh, how are we going to get to recognize these games? Because, I'd love to talk. I can't really put Vanishing Grace up in like best PCVR game or best Quest game because it would be up against like, Resident Evil 7, 4 and things like that. And it just,
Mm.
there wouldn't really be much space for it. And it's almost not fair in a way.
Yeah.
So I really love having this here because Alksmith does really, really cool, incredible things with storytelling that other
Absolutely.
VR games, like the bigger budget VR games, don't do. And I think that's a cool way to recognize it. Eternal Starlight is a very, very excellent niche genre that only a few people are going to really, really like. But if you are into those kind of space real-time strategy games, you're going to absolutely love it. So I think it's a cool category for sure.
Absolutely. And again, Arcsmith, for me, it goes beyond a game. It creates a vibe that I actually want to be in VR. For me, it's mostly the radio station. I then, went over to Spotify and just had the soundtrack on repeat for
Yeah.
a good couple weeks afterwards.
Yeah.
I couldn't get it out of my head.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just all like made up alien languages. Very cool. I love it very, very much. Next up, before we get into the biggies, it's best VR developer. Arguably a very big category. Here we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 developers that we think have just been outstanding.
Chef's kiss. Mwah.
Mwah, chef's kiss. The nominees are Beat Games, Shell Games, End Dreams, Fast Travel Games, and Resolution Games.
Lots of games in there.
Games.
Apart from End Dreams should call themselves End Dreams Games. So I guess
End Games.
the thinking behind that, I was going back through our past awards the other day. We've nominated Beat Games in this category so many times, but I just think they do such a good job of like hammering down their craft. It's never won as well. So and again for this year specifically, where they really took Beat Saber to another place with like Billie Eilish and Lady Gaga and all these massive, massive names, I think is massively deserving.
Mm-hmm.
Shell Games, I think is kind of a long overdue nomination. They came back with another fantastic sequel, but beyond their consumer games, they also do really cool experiments. Like we were writing about the car-based game that they showed off at OR a couple of weeks ago, which is literally putting on a headset in a car, and it uses the sense of momentum for an interesting gameplay experience. And then, of course, they've got a big year coming up as well with Lost Recipes, not Little Chefs, Lost Recipes, and Among Us VR as well. They're going to be involved in as well. So
Yep.
big things to come from them. Resolution, obviously, just so good at just churning out the games, getting good update cycles for the games, coming up with really cool, quirky concepts, and making sure they're very, very polished. Obviously, Demio and Blast On are the two we're talking about now, but they've already announced Ultimex to come in 2022 as well.
Yep.
And then End Dreams and Fast Travel are also very, very interesting. Fast Travel released, I think, its 5th VR game this year in like 4 years. And again, not really a bad game
Jeez.
among them. So
They're
that's
very
really,
similar
really
to Resolution in the quality, but also the momentum
true.
of producing games.
Yeah. And Fast Travel as well, just kind of they've just started up a publishing arm as well, which is, I think, something important to recognize. Same for End Dreams, who of course are doing Little Cities, publishing that, and obviously had a great year with Fract, which came out just 12 months after Phantom Covert Ops, which itself was fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic game.
And they're growing really, really fast. So
fantastic games.
what I like about this category is these are developers we've been talking about for a long, long time, and all committed to VR relatively early on. And it feels like they're all, kind of coming out of their shells and like really starting to nail these experiences that we want now. So it's a very, very exciting kind of graduation year for that.
Absolutely. So yeah, again, there are many other deserving developers, but these are the ones that have stuck out to us. Okay, next category, best PC VR game.
1 second. There we go. Cast.
So the nominees are Lone Echo 2. There you go, Sampler 19. Lone Echo 2, Sweet Surrender, Demio, I Expect You to Die 2, and Song in the Smoke.
Interesting year for PC. Obviously, there was a lot of back and forth debate about the state of PC VR as Quest became a much bigger deal, and obviously the prospect of PSVR 2 started coming along as well. Lone Echo 2 is the one on there that's is kind of really the only one like fully utilizing the power of the platform it's appearing on. But as someone said here, it's not greatly optimized. You're going to have a really killer rig to get a good performance out of it. But then the rest of these games are still fantastic games. They're just not necessarily that giant full budget experience that people that spend $1,000 on a Vive or something are hoping to get, right?
But you spend that grand, so then you get way clearer, way crisper, way more gorgeous games. So Demio, for example, in a Quest is fine, visually, bit blurry, but on PC VR, wow, is it gorgeous?
Yeah, that's true.
It takes it to another level. Yeah. And that's, another level of wonder added to the game. And, the same could be said for all of these.
Like Song in the Smoke for sure. Like, just really, really, they did a great job with scaling that game on every platform. So I love playing it on Quest where it looks great, but you definitely get that extra bit out of it on PC that makes it really, really worthwhile. And it only just came out on Steam VR as well. So definitely check that one out if you're a Steam VR user.
Sweet Surrender is an interesting one on there too. I think that's one that you
got really, I would have liked
really to have into.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Sweet Surrender in more categories this year. It's just it always ended up being the next one after we reached a limit or something like that. I think it's really cool. I think the developer's done a really, really good job with getting that addictive gameplay loop in there. And I do think it has a shot at winning PC VR game for sure, because I think it's very well suited for that crowd that are hungry for that core shooter content as well.
Next up is best PSVR game.
Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting I'm meant to be doing this. There we go.
The nominees are Fract, Hitman 3 VR, Sniper Elite VR, I Expect You to Die 2, and Song in the Smoke.
You look at this, right, and you think, man, PSVR, it always has a quiet year, but it's always a quietly good kind of year.
Oh, it's quite solid, yeah.
Yeah, like we could have also put Arashi in here, for example.
Yeah, easily.
There are a couple of that are nominated for Quest and PC that could have come over here as well. it's just a really, really, really solid thing, and it's so great to see 5 years on, and as dated as the headset is, and as imminently replaceable as the headset is,
Mm.
there's still great experiences coming to it. Like Hitman 3, arguably the biggest, most ambitious VR game of the year at the end of the day, because it's not just
Yeah,
Hitman
you're
3, it's
right.
Hitman 1 and 2 as well. And getting it all onto the PS4 system running with a new motion control element. Granted, it wasn't, the best tracking or the most stable motion control element, but it was there and it
Mm.
worked. Is really, really impressive, right?
Absolutely. Um, I think I pushed for Sniper Elite VR because of the aim controller
Mm,
usage.
yeah.
Any game using it successfully is an absolute winner on PSVR.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Like it's such a nice little bonus to get that in there. You kind of forget, especially with a multi-platform release like Sniper Elite, that they're almost kind of built for that platform in the first place.
Hmm.
And you're right that Sniper is a really, really great showcase of what that controller can do. Also, I still think a really, really great campaign in its own right. Like stacked up next to, I know some people prefer Medal of Honor, but I think it's way better paced and way more
Yeah, I
varied
agree.
than Medal of Honor, personally.
Yeah. And of course, Fract, super cool, meant to be basically the action movie of VR.
Hmm.
Great visuals. Someone mentioned the skiing design earlier.
Yeah.
That's something that really, really sold us when the game was first announced.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, fantastic
I
lineup.
also like Sampler says Fract makes PSVR feel young again, and that is a great way of
Oh,
putting
that's
it. That is such a
such a
good way of
great
putting it.
line. Next category, the penultimate category, is best quest game. You might see some repeats here again, but the nominees are Resident Evil 4 VR, Demio, Unplugged, A Township Tale, and A Song in the Smoke.
Yep. First time we've actually seen Resident Evil 4 VR in the categories, weirdly enough. But I think there's some hesitancy to go all out on nominating a game that is A, not natively a VR game, and B, also like nearly 20 years old now. But that's not to undersell just, you know, how great of a job they did bringing that game
Yeah,
to
ripping
VR.
out, the control scheme and just completely recreating it for VR.
Yeah.
Fantastic, but when you're riding off of the hype of it being one of the best Resident Evil games,
Yeah.
it just adds to it all the more.
Brutality said, "What about Blade and Sorcery Nomad?" And that is one of
We had
those
a
games that
conversation, yeah.
almost maybe could have got in there, but personally, I feel like the performance isn't that great. And also, if you load up a game and there's a major feature, which is the progression feature in this case, and you point at it with your cursor and it says coming in 2022, I struggle to be like, yeah, that was the best game this year, because it's kind of just this early. It's still early access essentially. It's just releasing without the early access label. So for me, it's like maybe next year, but we'll see. Township, on the other hand, is technically an early access game as well, but just has so much content on the other side of it, and is more back to that ongoing thing of really the whole game's kind of there right now. They're just adding interesting bits and pieces as they go.
Hmm.
Um, and I know again that you and Harry obviously are going to be fighting a corner for
We
Unplugged.
love Unplugged.
Yeah.
Unplugged is so cool. Of course, it deserves to be here. It recently came to PCVR, but it cannot stand up to the magnificence, how great it is on Quest. I'm still trying to work out that word in my head. Anyway, moving on.
The
It's
big one.
fantastic. You put out a preview of the PCVR version, and it was a bit weird with the controllers, the Valve Index controllers.
Oh, Unplugged. Yeah.
Unplugged.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I guess you won't. Yeah, I should have specified in the next category, I guess. But yeah, the PC version, it's fine. It's okay. Using the Valve Index controllers, but then, if hand tracking, if you consider the hand tracking to be buggy, you're going to consider the Valve Index control finger tracking to be really buggy. It's just not up to the same pace. It's usable, but I definitely would go for the Quest version over the PC VR version.
And lastly, arguably the biggest category, VR Game of the Year. You might be getting a vibe of what we are going to put in from the amount of times that these have been entered. VR Game of the Year, Resident Evil 4 VR, Demio, Unplugged, I Expect You to Die Too, and Song in the Smoke. I think this is not necessarily the definitive list of, what everyone would consider the best games, but they are the most solid, the most fun.
I think if you were going for the big hitters, the only one we've probably missed is maybe After the Fall, right?
Yeah, but it would probably it would need some time, wouldn't it?
After the Fall, I just think there's not enough game to After the Fall to have it.
Yeah.
Right now, like we said, I think the co-op implementation is fantastic. I think the crossplay is really, really cool. I think that's absolutely in with a shot of winning best updated game next year if the roadmap goes the way it should go. But yeah, for now, I don't think there's enough there, especially when you compare it to something like Resident Evil 4, which literally has about 20 hours of unique, different linear content to go through, as opposed to, like about half an hour's worth of repeatable maps. I definitely think that, there's an achievement there in Resident Evil 4 over After the Fall.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually funny. For a second, when we switched those categories, I was like, wait, isn't this exactly the same as the Quest category? But I Expect You to Die Too is there, and I think that's very important because that's one of those games that absolutely achieved the hit every platform, have every platform be of really, really good quality, make the most of VR. That's exactly the same for Song in the Smoke as well, a game I'm very, very fond of. And then you have something like Unplugged, which I really do love having Unplugged in this category because it tells you so much more about, like, yeah, it's innovative and it's a great Quest game, but it's also just really harnessing the power of VR with that, that power you feel from when all the air guitaring goes right. That's a really unique experience. And I just love in general that, yeah, we've got a shooter in this list. We've got a story-driven shooter. We've got a kind of escape room puzzle game. But then we've kind of got free experiences. Well, I guess Song in the Smoke is kind of a traditional survival game as well. But then we've got two experiences that really are just highlighting how different and powerful an experience you can have in VR, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, they're all as strong as each other. It's not like, oh, we'll just chuck them in to show how different VR is. They're all genuinely magnificent games.
Magnificent.
I worked it out. They're fantastic. So there you are. Those are the nominees for this year's UploadVR Awards 2021. Very interesting to have all of your input during this live stream. I'm quite glad that this was a live stream and not pre-recorded because I'm, getting a feel for what you guys agree with and disagree with.
Yeah.
Very important.
But Thursday's show will be a pre-recorded one, so it will go out as a premiere, but it won't be live. So you can disagree with us all, but we won't be there to respond to you.
We'll be on Christmas break.
I'll be sipping margaritas
in the Bahamas.
I'm having a weird Christmas this year.
Yeah, pull one out. All right, cool. Yeah, join us in the future.
Wait, don't you have a thing?
Oh yeah, do you guys want to know my list of my favorite characters? This is very unofficial. I didn't make a graphic or anything. You guys asked us during the VR Games cast last week who would make our list of top VR characters. So number 1 would be Haru from Arashi's Castles of Sin. Leading after that, Carved Snowboarding Dog. 3, Vod from Larsenauts, of course. 4 is the big-cheeked boss man from After the Fall.
Okay.
Number 5 is Gorilla from Gorilla Tag.
Right. Those are your. Is that it?
Yeah, that's my 5
That's your top 5 VR characters of the year.
of 2021.
Not
Who else?
the bird thing from Song in the Smoke.
Absolutely not.
Not.
Oh, Seabiscuit
Oh, Seabiscuit from Demio, of
from
course, number
Demio
6.
from the latest
VR
update.
RPG Productions really wants you to say Quill, but to be fair, Quill wasn't really anywhere this year. Quill maybe next year.
She was lost.
She was lost to you.
Yeah, maybe next year. Let's see how it goes. Again, these are characters that have come out this year.
But Vargo Soft just pointed out the dog from Blair Witch Project was a really, really good dog. You can throw the ball with that dog as well. I think you need to play Blair Witch just so you can
say that I
interact
love the
with
dog from it.
Oh, why have we not done a best dog category?
Oh yeah, Monkey from Gorilla Tag. Sorry, I misnamed him.
You gotta get these things right. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think a couple of months ago we were talking about whether or not it had been a good year for VR content, and I still think it's not been like this massive runaway success year. But I think based on these categories, first of all, I think at least 3 of these came out after we had that conversation, and then there's Demio, and I think I Expect You to Die 2 as well. But I just love just how different and diverse this category is, right? We're not talking about Uncharted, Halo, like next Halo spin-off, next big game from developer that always gets the Game Award or something like that. We're talking about a lot of genuinely new, risky, interesting experiences, apart from Resident Evil 4, which is obviously all of what I just said. And I just think it's cool. I just think it's such a nice showcase of how different and interesting and still in development this medium is at the end of the day, that we don't have story driven shooters that are just eating up all of the attention. We're actually, all of our attention goes to something like Demio, where the social element of the game is just so powerful that it really elevates everything else. And the same with Unplugged. It's technically you're nominating a Guitar Hero game, but in 2021, but at the same time, because you're in VR and there's those moments that make real connection with the music, it's just an entirely different sensation, I think. And then going back to the hidden gems thing, there's stuff like Mare, which is such a cool Shadow of the Colossus type experience in VR, and I'm just so happy we get to mention it even 12 months on, because it released all the way back in January.
The thing is, you don't need to have straight up ports of Resident Evil 4 or whatever just to have kind of VR love letters to the games that you loved previously.
Yeah. Chris Richardson, we had Space Pirate Trainer in the best update category, so you got it in there. Don't worry. And someone was asking about maybe doing some polls as well, and I think we've talked about doing that, right? Potentially getting that set up.
Yes.
We might do that. We might not, but we might do it.
We'll see. We'll see what Santa brings, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, we have got the list of all of the nominees over at uploadvr.com, as well as, all the reviews for everything that we have mentioned. Did we go through hardware? We got one more category, boys and girls.
Oh dear.
We forgot hardware.
Okay. Here it is.
Here we go, guys. Best hardware. The nominees are HTC Vive Flow, the VR Power 2, Vario Aero, Decamove, and Anker Quest 2 charging dock.
I think it's important to point out before people say where is. We didn't get to try the Vive Focus 3, and we haven't tried the Vive Pro 2. So that's kind of it in terms of the major new headset releases for the year. There's also the Pico Neo 3, which I have, but we haven't really tried yet. Interesting year for hardware because, it's been so much more about the software this year than it has about new headsets. Vive Flow, I know not everyone really gets on board with, but I think Heaney, who is modeling for us in this picture, he doesn't think it's like a runaway success or anything, but definitely an interesting piece of technology that hopefully will, grow into a category of its own in the future. Vario Aero, a really cool, super high-powered headset that we have a couple of issues with that hopefully are getting ironed out, and I'm kind of going back and testing with it right now, so it might maybe potentially even be an easier pick in a couple of days from now. Who knows? Deca Move, very interesting one to nominate, obviously, because Deca Gear itself just it seems like it might be internally imploding right now, but the actual Deca Move is a good, fun, working, affordable product that changes VR locomotion in some interesting ways. And then some Quest accessories.
Yep. Yeah, great lineup. Vario Aero is one that's sticking out to me right now. Which again, like you said, it's got plenty of issues.
Yeah. So comfortable though.
It's so comfortable.
So nice to wear a headset and not think after about 5 minutes, oh, I'd like to take this off.
Apart from when it's blowing air into my eyeballs, which seems to be a problem for me, but not necessarily for you.
I think they might have addressed that. You should try it again.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And there you go. Let me just look through the images, but I'm pretty sure we didn't miss anything else. Experience, DLC, hardware, Quest game, PSVR game, PC game, developer, innovative design, immersive moment, VR game of the year.
Yeah, we got it.
Updated, hidden gem, competitive, co-op. Done. Bish bash bosh.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah. Look at me dusting my hands. I only get one hand at a time, but I'm dusting them. There we go.
Cool. Check out UploadVR.com for the list of nominees, including best hardware. And we will kind of see you guys on Thursday. 5 p.m. GMT, 9 a.m. PST for the winners.
Where are you?
Had a lot of fun, guys. We'll see you then.
Have a good Christmas as well. This is the last time we'll say that before Christmas live.
Merry.
Cool. Merry.
Have a merry week. Goodbye.
Merry.